I'm Sander, but you might know me as SuperNfty. Um, I'm going to talk a bit about surviving and thriving as a solo artist in the NFT space. First, I'm going to talk about what that means to me. Then I'm going to talk a bit about myself and why I'm in any position to give advice. And then I'm going to give you 5 things I learned in the past 2 years of being one myself. I wear many hats, but I mostly see myself as a 3D collectible artist. I make these 3D floating animated characters, and I make them in VR. They're inspired by street art and designer toys. And by surviving and thriving, I mean being able to do what you love through NFTs. These are my 6 collections. I started back in March of 2021. And since then, I'm very proud to say that I'm now a full-time artist. Now, obviously, my collections didn't 10x yet. Otherwise, I wouldn't need to introduce myself. But I am, so I'm not going to talk about how to be the next Bored Apes or how to pump and dump a project or how to get influencers on board. But I am a solo independent NFT artist for 2 years now that has been consistently able to sell his art through NFTs. Also, I've never been called a rug pull, which is at this point sadly pretty impressive, as you might know. It all started with the floating heads, my one-of-one collection back in 2021. I made for a certain period of time one of these a day, and I fell in love with NFTs immediately. I was in Discord 24/7 talking to collectors about what to do with the brand and with the future of SuperNfty. After all, these people from all over the world were here not only to buy my art but also to support my art in multiple ways. It was beautiful. Then at the end of 2021, I wanted to see if I could expand on my community. And luckily, generative design was really popping off back then. So I talked to my programmer brother, who is in the audience, and he was able to learn smart contracts pretty quickly. So we tested out doing generative with the Super Balls. Which was a test. It was given away for free to the owners of the previous project, and they doubled as mint passes for the real deal, the imps. The imps are the second ever 3D animated generative project, but the first project to grant 3D files to holders, and later also the first to grant webcam filters to holders. Minting out a 10K project was an absolute roller coaster, especially as a solo NFT artist, but that's not really what this presentation is about. In the middle of a timeline, you see Super Toys. It's kind of a fun side gig I do where people can commission a 3D printable toy version of their favorite NFT. It's a really fun way to connect with other communities and just in general a fun side gig to do. And then there's the Spirit, which is really my bread and butter and the project around which my entire NFT philosophy revolves. It is my solution to consistently provide value in terms of art to collectors while I can keep doing what I love, creating kind of 3D Pokemon. So it's a collectible monster collection. And the imps, my previous projects, get these completely for free in generations. Generation 1 came out in August of last year. And so because all the collectors got at least 3 for free, it didn't take very long for them to start trading them amongst each other. And you could evolve them if you had 3 of the same. So that's a really fun thing. Which also makes them deflationary, which is great for value, because after a few months already 6,000 of these had been burned. Oh, and the Spirits Generation 2 is coming out in August, so if you're interested in all this, you should buy some imps after the presentation. There's the Fallen Heads, another one-of-one collection I did early this year because I was noticing it's important to ride waves a little bit in NFTs, and I was noticing that one-of-ones were kind of making comeback, and I was feeling nostalgic to the floating heads, my first project. So I asked my collectors, because it wasn't on the roadmap, I asked my collectors if they would be okay for me doing some more one-of-ones, and they totally had my back. So without further ado, 5 tips if you're trying to survive the NFT space as a solo NFT artist. Tip number 1, NFTs can be whatever the hell you want them to be. In a magic internet world where memes run the economy, there's no real use in trying to predict the meta or anything. There's also infinite opportunities, and there's so much that actually hasn't been done before, and blockchain makes everything possible. That I would say, try to find something that you think is valuable personally, and that you would actually love to do, and somehow make it a reality. For me, for example, I couldn't think of a better job for myself than to create 3D Pokemon for the rest of my life, so kind of made that happen. Tip number 2, you don't need a team. Even though NFTs are at the forefront of innovation, I think a lot of people in the NFT space are very, very narrow-minded. Everyone will tell you you need to do like the big projects, you need a roadmap, you need social media marketers, you need Discord engagers, which is a thing according to my DMs. But I think that's a trap, because a lot of NFT founders get their money at the beginning of their project, so it's very easy to be seduced into spending a lot of it. That is money that you could use for something else, for example, maintaining your life and just having time to create more art, for example. But maybe you do want more like an event management project and you do need to hire a lot of people, but even then I'd suggest being smart about it. You don't have to be the next big thing, just like you don't need to be the biggest YouTuber to make some money on the internet. You don't have to be the next Bored Apes or whatever. You can just be successful enough for now. Tip number 3, slow growth is best growth. A huge pump in the beginning of your project is fun, but it can actually be very detrimental to your project. We had that with the imps. It was a small pump, luckily, kind of. But a bunch of flippers coming into your project just to dump at higher prices is actually not good for the OG collectors of your projects or for diamond hand holders. Because so many people bought in just to be disappointed that we didn't become a huge blue chip project right away. So I would say slow growth is best. Tip number 4, tend to your core collectors. I think this is the single most important thing ever if you're trying to make it as an NFT artist. The longer people hold on to your NFTs, the longer they support you, the longer they stick around, the more they should be rewarded. So unless you're like literally the next Beeple, you should think of providing some value over time, some utility. It's Web3, the rules have changed a bit. But utility can be anything. I like to see NFTs as kind of like a Patreon 2.0, where people can not only give you money to support your art, so you can keep making art, but they also are invested in you long term. So if you treat your community as partners instead of customers, they'll have your back for the rest of your career. And last but not least, be honest and talk to your collectors. It's very important to be available and present in your own Discord. I am baffled, but I get a lot of praise for this all the time. And I'm baffled that actually not all founders apparently do this, because it's so easy and it is just kind of fun to do. So yeah, be present in your Discord. People like to be involved, so let them. And a lot of your collectors will actually be pretty smart. So as a founder, you don't really know everything. All right, that's about it. Thank you for listening. 11 seconds, perfect. If you have any questions, come talk to me after the presentations. Thank you.